When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Okay, you've done everything right. You stayed in no contact. You ignored the breadcrumbs. Your ex finally reaches out and they ask to see you. You go on a date. Then another one. And everything seems to be going exactly the way you hoped. Except there's one little problem. And it's a problem so subtle that most people don't even realize it's happening until weeks or, yikes, maybe even months go by, and by then you're confused, frustrated, and you're wondering why you're still not back together. Well, today I have an email from a woman who did an incredible job with no contact. In fact, for the most part, she handled the breakup extremely well. She did everything she was supposed to. But then she made one crucial error. And that mistake is something that I see happening over and over again. And it's the one thing that can completely derail a reconciliation before you even realize it's happening. But here's the thing. Getting your ex to reach out and come back is not the finish line as most people think it is. Oh, I just need to get my ex to reach out and then we'll be back together. No, you won't. What happens after they come back is even more important. Okay, so stay tuned. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lucia. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back or to get over your ex. And if you're not new, you're part of my no contact army, so welcome back. Okay, let's get into this email. She says, I was in a relationship for 4 years. I suspect my ex may be a narcissist or someone with dismissive avoidant attachment style, although I know it's impossible to diagnose someone from a distance. Exactly. A lot of people get hung up on trying to label their ex. Is it narcissism? Is it dismissive avoidant? Is it fearful avoidant? Well, the fact is, unless someone is actually evaluating that person professionally, you'll never really know. But more importantly, you don't need to know, because what matters is the behavior and how they treat you and whether they're consistent, whether they're capable of having the kind of relationship that you want. Those are the things that actually matter. Okay, so throughout those 4 years, we went through several breakups, reconciliations, and what you often call fake breakups. Before I found your podcast, I was always the one chasing him whenever we broke up. Okay, so when someone keeps ending the relationship and the other person keeps chasing, we then have a pattern that develops. The dumper learns something very important. If I leave, they'll come after me, so there's very little risk, very little consequence. And that's one of the reasons that these cycles repeat themselves. Remember, we teach people how to treat us. About 1.5 years ago, I discovered your content. And since then, I've handled things differently. Good. After our short breakups, he was always the one who came back. Finally, notice what changed. She stopped chasing and he started returning. When you stop chasing, your ex finally has the opportunity to experience your absence. If they're interested enough, they'll begin to wonder about you. Curiosity grows, they miss you, they wonder if you're moving on, and eventually they may reach out. And by the way, I do offer private one-on-one coaching so you can figure out what the heck is happening with your relationship. And you can get information on that at theartoflove.net/coaching, and we will send you the rates. They're not on the website. And the direct link to that is underneath every video and podcast. Okay, she continues. However, I always forgave too quickly, and he never really faced any consequences for leaving. Yeah, it sounds like she never asked my 6 questions to get your ex back. Okay, so because she's identified the real problem now, because most people think the breakup is the problem, and sometimes the problem is what happens after the breakup. If someone leaves every time things get difficult and then they come back and everything immediately goes back to normal, well, why would anything ever change? You've taught them that they can walk out whenever they want and come right back without having to rebuild trust or address what happened that caused the breakup in the first place. So already I like how self-aware she's becoming. So she's recognizing patterns that she probably couldn't see a couple of years ago. And then she says, this March, after we had just returned from a 3-week trip together, he broke up with me. He said he wasn't ready to take the next step in our relationship. Girl, you waited too long. It's like 4 years and you're still not in a relationship. This should have been worked out within the first 3 to 6 months, but that's a whole other story. Okay, now pay attention because the reason for this breakup matters. He didn't say that they argued too much or the chemistry was gone or they were incompatible. According to her, he said he wasn't ready to take the next step in the relationship. So keep that in the back of your mind because later in the story, it's going to become very important. She continues, I immediately went into radio silence. Good. That's exactly what I recommend. No arguing, no convincing, no trying to change their mind. If someone tells you they're not ready to move the relationship forward, there's very little you can say at that moment that is going to make them suddenly become ready. So don't waste your breath. The strongest move is to accept what they said and walk away. Now, here's where the story starts to get really interesting. But wait, first, I want to tell you about my app, Silencio, which helps you to stay in no contact, because I know many times when you're in no contact, you're tempted to break it. And you can download it on either Google Play or the App Store. And the link to that is underneath every single video and podcast, as is the link to my book, No Contact Secrets, at nocontactsecrets.com. Okay, so she continues. A month later, he texted me to wish me a happy Easter and said he had a gift for me. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, then you know that I would not consider this a significant message. He's testing the waters. He's trying to see whether she's still available. A gift is nice. Wishing someone a happy Easter is nice, but neither one addresses the breakup. Neither one says, I made a mistake. Can we get back together? Can we work on us? She continues, I didn't reply. Good. And I know some people are going to think that sounds harsh, but remember, he ended the relationship. And if all he has to say after a month is, Happy Easter, I have a gift for you, that's not enough. He has to do more than simply reopen communication. He has to give you a reason to reopen it from your side. And then she says, 2 days later, he liked one of my old Instagram photos. Again, another breadcrumb.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
He's looking for a response without having to risk too much. Then, about 3 months later, he started liking my Instagram stories. Same thing. He's still circling around. He's hoping she'll make it easy for him. Nope. And eventually, he realizes he's going to have to do something more. So then she says, I tried your 2-drink trick and it worked. Woohoo. And so for those of you who don't know what she was referring to, that's when I tell you to post a photo of 2 drinks, 1 masculine drink, 1 feminine drink, you know what I mean? And tag the location. So you're pretending that you're out on a date, right? Now, this trick is not going to make someone who has no interest suddenly become interested, but it does give just a little push to someone who's on the fence. And in her case, it worked because she said, he reached out and asked if we could meet. Okay, now we've crossed an important threshold. He's not just liking her stories or wishing her a happy Easter, he's asking to meet up. And that's what I mean by increasing investment. Notice how every step required more effort than the previous one, and that's what you want. You don't want to reward the lowest level of effort. You want your ex to continue investing. And then she said, I waited a day before replying. Good. That's exactly what I tell people to do if they're going to respond to a message from their ex, 1 or 2 days, because that's the kind of emotional control you want. And then she says, and simply asked what his intentions were. Again, perfect. He said he missed me, wanted to see me, and wanted to ask me a few things. Okay, now let's stop right here. Did he answer her question? I don't think so. He answered a totally different question. She asked about his intentions. He answered with his feelings. I miss you. Okay, yeah, and you can miss someone, and that doesn't mean you want a relationship. I want to see you. Great. Lots of exes want to see each other. That doesn't necessarily mean they want to rebuild the relationship. I wanted to ask you a few things. Well, why can't he ask during a phone call? So those are three completely different things. And I think this is where many people accidentally get themselves in trouble because they think they received clarity when in reality, they only received an invitation. So they met a few days later, and she said that neither of us brought up difficult relationship topics. Okay, I can understand that. Because first meetings after a breakup are usually about reconnecting. So you don't necessarily want to sit down and immediately have a 2-hour relationship summit. It felt like he wanted to sweep everything under the rug, just like he always had, of course. So she recognizes the pattern. This isn't new behavior. This is how he's always handled conflict. Let's just move forward, pretend nothing happened, enjoy each other's company. But here's the problem. If the breakup happened because he wasn't ready to move the relationship forward, and now we're pretending the breakup never happened, has anything actually changed? A few days later, he contacted me again and we met up once more. Okay, he's still pursuing. He's asking to meet. And then she says something that for me is the turning point in the entire email. Since then, he's also offered several times to help me renovate the apartment I recently bought. Now, on the surface, that's a very thoughtful gesture. It shows he wants to spend time with her. It shows he's investing some effort. But I want you to notice something that's quietly happening here. They're beginning to build a connection again. They're spending time together. He's offering favors. They're acting more and more like a couple, except nobody has established whether they're actually rebuilding the relationship. And that's where things can get dangerous, because if you don't know why your ex came back, it's very easy to drift into a situationship without ever intending to. She says, the problem is that I still don't feel like he's actually ready for a relationship. And that right there is the entire problem. Notice what she didn't say. She didn't say they had another fight. She didn't say he ghosted her or disappeared. She said she doesn't think he's ready for a relationship. In other words, the very reason he broke up with her still appears to be unresolved. And then she says, I'm trying not to chase him. I don't force conversations, and I usually end them first. But lately, he seems to be becoming hot and cold again. And this is exactly what happens when there isn't enough clarity. Once people slip back into each other's lives without establishing what it is exactly they're rebuilding, uncertainty starts creeping back in. And then every text gets analyzed, every delay feels significant, every hot and cold moment creates anxiety. And she says, I don't want to end up in the friend zone or in a situationship. Yeah, exactly. Because by the time someone says this, they've already seen the warning signs. She continues, what should I do if he keeps reaching out from time to time, but doesn't consistently ask to see me, doesn't show more effort, and never clearly says he wants to get back together? Well, I think the answer is hidden inside your own question. You said he reaches out from time to time, that he doesn't consistently ask to see you, and he doesn't show more effort. And you said he never clearly says he wants to get back together. So those are 4 separate observations. And when you put them together, they paint a picture. He's back in your life, but he has not shown that he's back in the relationship. And that is not the same thing. If he asks to meet again, should I have an honest conversation about where this is going and what his intentions are? Or would bringing that up too soon push him away? That's the key. Everyone's afraid to push their ex away by asking why the ex is back. But it's not logical. It does not make sense. Because look at it this way. If your ex wants to come back and be in a relationship, but hasn't said it yet, and then you say, hey, what are your intentions? Are we getting back together? Or whatever, some version thereof. He's not going to then not get back into a relationship with you just because you asked. I mean, does that sound logical? It's like, well, I was going to get back together with you, but now you asked if we're getting back together, so now we're not getting back together. I think it's because you're afraid that he doesn't want to get back together, and that by asking, you're going to expose the truth. So remember when she asked him, what are your intentions? She never got the answer. Yeah, he was being a politician. He was being slippery and sliding around and not answering the question. Because he answered with, oh, I miss you, I want to see you, have some things to ask you. Those aren't intentions, because an intention sounds like, I realized I made a mistake. I want to rebuild our relationship. I'd like to see if we can make this work. Those statements tell you why someone's coming back. Missing you is not the same thing as wanting a committed relationship. Wanting to see you isn't the same thing as wanting to build a future together. Those are completely different things. And I think that's where this reconciliation started going off the track. Because remember, he ended the relationship, not her. So he doesn't get to come back and simply pick up where he left off without addressing why he left in the first place. So if he asks to see you again, yes, I think it's appropriate to say something like, well, I've really enjoyed seeing you again, but when we broke up, you told me you weren't ready to move the relationship forward. So before we keep rebuilding this, I'd like to know whether anything has changed. And see, by saying that, you're not chasing. That's not pressure. You're protecting yourself. And if his answer is, I don't know, or well, let's just see what happens, or I don't want to put labels on it, shut up. Then he's still not offering the kind of relationship you want. And the mistake I see people make over and over again after no contact works is that they spend months trying to get their ex back. Then, once the ex comes back, they're so afraid of losing them that they're afraid to ask that one question that actually matters. Why are you back? Because if you never find out the answer to that question, you can end up getting exactly what they wanted. Your attention, your time, your companionship, maybe even your affection and intimacy, while you're still wondering whether you're actually back together. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. Never let your ex enjoy the benefits of a relationship while you're still wondering if you're in one. I'm going to say that again because I think it's important. Never let your ex enjoy the benefits of a relationship while you're still wondering if you're in one. Getting your ex back is not the goal. Getting back into the right relationship is. And before you give your ex the benefits of being back in your life, make sure they're offering the relationship you actually want. Okay, so now I want to hear from you. Do you have any questions or comments about anything I've said? And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. And remember, love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.